Today I have the distinct pleasure of speaking with Chris Berry. How are you today, Chris?
I'm fine. How are you, Tracy?
Chris, I want to start by talking to you about your forecast for 2015. So if you wouldn't mind, can you talk to us about what we should anticipate as investors and the resources that maybe we should focus on?
Sure. I think that the resource space in general, particularly the metals, have hit bottom. And I think that 2015 is going to be a much better year than either 2014 or 2013 or 2012 were. My specific focus is what I call the energy metals. So I'm paying particular attention this year to lithium and cobalt.
Okay, so in reading about your forecast for 2015, and I can't tell you how delighted I am to hear that we should be looking at an upcycle in the resource sector. Can you tell us about the lithium and cobalt market? Because you specifically talked about those two energy metals maybe leading the pack this year.
Well, lithium, to start off with that, is an oligopoly. It's run by 3 or 4 major players. One of the reasons why I like it is because demand for lithium across a whole host of products, it's not just batteries, but it's pharmaceuticals, for example, it's growing at well above global GDP growth rates. So when you think about the commodity space right now, in particular the metals, what I'm focused on are those metals that are growing well above global GDP, because even if demand for, say, lithium falls a little bit, you're still well ahead of, say, copper or something like that. So lithium in particular is growing at about 8% per year, and I think it's going to be very strong going forward on the back of the battery business.
So, Chris, if I want to invest in lithium, for instance, you said there's primarily 3 major players, 3 to 4 major players. Is there a company in particular that you're watching?
Yeah, there are a couple that I'm interested in, and obviously I've focused predominantly on the junior or the advanced development space. I'm really looking closely at a company called Lithium Americas right now. They have one of the largest brine projects in Argentina, but what makes them special and differentiates them from the pack is a relationship that they have with POSCO. And for those of you watching who don't know, POSCO is one of the largest steel producers in the world, and they've made huge investments into lithium extraction and the lithium extraction business. So they have a process that allows them to produce lithium from brines at a fraction of the time and a fraction of the cost of traditional lithium brine methods right now. So it's very potentially interesting for Lithium Americas going forward.
All right. Our audience understands, I think, has a very good understanding of the lithium market. So they're going to be very excited about this particular forecast for 2015. But cobalt, would you mind giving us a little bit of an overview about cobalt and perhaps select a cobalt company that you're following presently?
Sure. Cobalt is another one of these small, I would argue, misunderstood or not well understood markets. The global cobalt market is about 100,000 tons right now. So you compare that to copper, it's say 23 million tons. It's a blip. But again, when you look at how cobalt is used, in particular in the battery business, it's absolutely indispensable. So if these battery forecasts are even halfway accurate, we're going to need a lot more cobalt coming from reliable geopolitical jurisdictions, which is another one of the distinctions with respect to cobalt. Most of it comes from, say, unsavory investment locations right now, like the DRC. So I'm particularly focused on, let's just say, non-African or non-Russian sources of cobalt right now.
So can you give us an example of a company that we should look at?
Sure. The list is actually quite small, and one of the ones that I'm most interested in right now and have been following for a number of years is Global Cobalt. They've done a lot of work in Russia, interestingly enough, with the deposit that they've advanced over there. And in recent months, they've now turned inwards, so to speak, and are focusing on developing 2 earlier stage high-grade cobalt deposits in Canada. So, again, ones to keep your eye on for sure.
Speaking of energy metals, and thank you for your feedback on cobalt, can you tell us a little bit about your perspective on uranium? A lot of us are very bull here in this office on nuclear energy and uranium in particular. What are your thoughts?
I'm bullish long-term as well. Obviously the disaster in Fukushima really cast a pall, if you will, over the entire uranium business, and that, I think, remains to this day. We did see a lift in the uranium price in 2014 from about $28 a pound up to about $42, and it's since backed off a little bit. But, we're going to need more uranium going forward. Obviously, a lot of the emerging markets, China, India, so on and so forth, are building out their nuclear infrastructure. So it's going to be a long, slow climb back to, say, the heady days from a few years ago. But generally speaking, we are going to need more uranium. It's going to need to come from reliable geopolitical jurisdictions. And so Canada in particular and the western United States are areas that I'm really focused on.
Speaking of themes, you just recently spoke not only at the Minds and Money show, but at the Vancouver Cambridge House show. Was there one theme in particular that you really stressed or that was prominent in your presentation, Chris?
I think, yes, the way going forward for the mining industry has less to do with the assumption of high natural resource prices. Obviously, they've plateaued, so my theme has to do with productivity and efficiency. You have to find technologies that allow for low-cost production, whether or not it's with lithium, like we talked about before, or uranium. So it's all about productivity. Productivity enhances quality of life and lowers costs, and I think that's the way forward for the mining industry.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.